Welcome back everyone to another Coach Plecker video. We're going to be returning to the series, Is It Clickbait? Have you ever watched a video, got to the end of the video, just to realize that clever title that they have was something that you already knew anyway? Have you ever watched a video, finished the video, gone into rank thinking that it was going to help you, you go into rank, you just do horrible, and you think something's wrong with you? I have. When I first started League of Legends, I was Bronze 5. I thought I'd rule the world, but once I got to 30, I didn't. I was Bronze 5. But I went through the same hoops that you guys have been through, and videos that just didn't work, videos that I thought worked, but like I'm just not understanding what's going on. And so I created this series. Is It Clickbait? This is a series where you guys give me videos that you guys think might be clickbait, might not be clickbait, to understand the real thought process behind the video. Now, if you guys don't know, I've been professionally coaching for going on 10 years, diamond in all roles, diamond to peak. So with the knowledge that I have, I want to do my best to help you guys understand. Now, these videos are not to BM the creators. These videos are not to say that they don't know anything. These videos are not targeting, directing any anger or anything. I'm just watching the video that you guys sent to me, wondering if this is actual facts or if it is just clickbait. You know, things that are just kind of the same concept, just renamed or glossed over a little bit. The video will be in the description below, so please feel free to go down there, watch the video first, then come back here. Again, I am not BMing or roasting these guys. Their content is their content, my content is my content. I'm just here to look for the facts. Hope you guys enjoy. Also, I haven't said this about my Patreons, and you guys have been supporting me for a long time. If you guys want to support me on my Patreon, you know, some people don't want to get coaching, and I understand that, but some people want to support in a different way. Patreon is the way to do it. And I have not been saying thank you guys enough for you guys being my Patreons. You guys have just been kind of under the radar. So if you guys want to help support, go over to my Patreon. I will be having Blakers Bootcamp coming back real soon, and the way to get into Blakers Bootcamp is going to my Patreon. Not only are you going to have the Blakers Bootcamp, but also I will be doing a raffle once a week to give away coaching sessions and VOD reviews and things like that. So again, my Patreon is a way to support if you're not really into coaching, but it's also kind of like a discount way to get coaching sessions. I will be adding more exclusive things to Patreon, but I just don't want everything to be a paywall. I want to try to make sure that it's fair for both people that just, you know, want to watch my content for free and people that do want to support me. So I'm going to try my best to make it so that there's not like, oh, you have to pay for this to get this information. So in the future, I will be adding more exclusives to Patreon. Again, check it out. Link description below. And then, of course, if you want coaching, CoachPlecker.com is where you want to go.
Split pushing is without a doubt the #1 strategy for winning solo queue in low elo. The lack of coordination from your opponents and no help required from your own silly teammates makes it the perfect 1v9 strategy to win almost any game if done properly. However, when we watch low elo players playing solo queue, it doesn't feel that way at all. If we had to describe it, their split pushing just feels way too fair. They're not abusing the strategies that actually make the game feel impossible for their opponents. And that's precisely why in this guide, we'll be covering some of the most abusive tactics you can pull off to destroy your opponent's will to play every single game.
So I will be pausing pretty frequently. Again, watch the video, link description below if you guys want to watch that video and without interruptions. But I will say there's no such thing as playing fair. No matter what lane you are, no matter what role you are, there's no such thing as playing dirty. There's just strategy, period. So that's kind of weird. The video is titled Stop Playing Fair If You Want to Win. So let's continue. But there's no such thing as playing unfair. But let's go.
But before we do that, let's be honest, this is history.
Dedicated. Kicking things off, you may believe that a lot of what we'll talk about is only relevant to the dedicated split-pushing champions in the game. Stuff like Jax, Camille, Yorick, etc. That couldn't be further from the truth. You can abuse split-pushing in your games almost regardless of what you're playing. Here's why. The first thing to understand is what makes a champion good at split-pushing in the first place. One of the main qualities of being able to side lane is your ability to duel your opponents, right? That's why Fiora is known as one of the premium split pushers in the game. She could be blindfolded and she'd still win any 1v1 that comes her way. A second quality most splitters have is the ability to farm quickly. Tryndamere does this exceptionally well. If he's in a side lane, he's taking every minion wave and jungle camp around him instantly. And the final quality they all share is usually their ability to run away. You're constantly under threat of being collapsed on by multiple people, so your kit needs to be able to get out of a sticky situation easily. Riven and Singed come to mind as champions that are impossible to lock down in a side lane. Yes, there's champions that naturally excel at all of those tasks, but League is a pretty varied game. Regardless of what champion you're on, there may often come times where any champion you're playing can fall under those categories. For example, Malphite is obscenely fed this game. Despite building full tank, he's pumping out tons of damage, meaning that he can duel anyone that comes his way. Here, he easily disposes of the opposing Urgot. Then he goes into the enemy jungle to take some camps. Nunu, the fool that he is, tries to stop him and smites the blue away. Malphite really doesn't like this lesser being taking what's rightfully his and disposes of him as well. And after that, he goes right back to farming the enemy jungle. Or how about this? The last champion you'd think about when we say nimble and evasive is a massive lumbering Cho'Gath in a side lane. However, this Cho'Gath has a force of nature for a bit of movement speed, and all of the enemy champions lack any sort of hard engage or a reliable way to catch up to him. So Cho'Gath feels like an uncatchable Singed, just spamming Qs to kite away easily. Do you see what we mean? During your games, if you happen to be able to apply the 3 qualities we discussed, then any champion can abuse split pushing under the right circumstances. Now that we know that you can do
Okay, so I will stop right here and say everything that he actually said was correct. The only thing that he didn't say was you have to be fed to do those things with those champions. Split pushing champions are always good because they could do the job without actually having kills. They could do the job without actually having funds. They could just be behind and they could pull off that split push aspect. What this person's saying is that everything that you just pretty much have seen has been champions that have been already winning lane. They already had items, or they're just straight up already fed. So kind of take that as you will. Again, everything that he said was right, just you have to be fed. Split pushing champions are specifically just designed to do the crap anyway, regardless of, winning or losing lane.
Do this on any champion. Let's talk about the most annoying things you can do to become the split pusher that everyone wants on their team. The first thing is the simplest, but one of the most important: itemization. If you get the feeling that you'll be split pushing most of the game, then you want to pre-plan your items to help you do that most efficiently. The number one thing to think about is making a note of which of the enemy champions are most likely to collapse onto you if you end up split pushing. Let's say the enemy team composition is comprised of Renekton, Kindred, Lux, Ashe, and Seraphine. Looking at that composition, you should immediately think to build Merc Treads in that game, considering how much crowd control is coming your way in team fights. However, champions like Lux, Ashe, and Seraphine typically aren't the ones that respond to split pushers, which means that if you're always in a side lane, that you're very unlikely to ever interact with them. Therefore, items like steel caps and getting extra armor would make your success in a side lane much more likely. For example, Jax this game has a massive edge over his opponents. To really solidify his lead, let's take a look at how he'll choose to itemize. He even has the decency to type a note to us mid-game about what he's thinking. It's the exact same concept we just talked about. It's very unlikely the Veigar or Lux will be the ones in a side lane, therefore stacking armor will have a lot of value. As you can see, by prioritizing armor, it became completely impossible for both Garen and Rengar to ever contest this split push, making Jax an unstoppable monster this game.
Okay, so 2 things. 1, he's right. Look, Coach Blake here is not going to be like, oh, you're wrong. No, if you're right, you're right. I'll give you credit. But there is a downside. So first of all, there's 2 things that we failed to mention here. First thing is, I'm pretty sure this is low elo. It might not be. I usually, back in the day, I would honestly just go look up the op.gg. But with a lot of these videos, I'm just going to assume it's probably gold. What I will say is that that is right. The champions that are probably going to come to you are going to be the champions that are either the top laner or the jungler. Usually that's how that it happens. You're not going to have the ADC rotate top often. You're not going to have the mid laner rotate top often. They're doing their own thing most of the time. That being said, if the game goes a little bit too long and all you did was stacked armor, you're going to have to start actually team fighting. And so it's not necessarily you building to just split pushing. You want to build for the situation at hand. Are you really going to split push, or are you just going to push, let the guy come to you, and then go around and then flank the enemy team? If you're laning against something that is very good at clearing waves and you can't dive them, what's the point of building, as this person suggested, the Frozen Heart stacking armor and whatnot? Like, I think it's a Smurf player playing in low elo and they're just getting away with stomping. That's my thought. I mean, he's 10-2. That's my thought process. Actually, I'll just do it. So let's see. What is it? What is the name? Nayasuta. So I'm always in incognito because I don't want the videos in my feed. But let's just see. I don't know why I keep going to op.gg. Their stuff is like super rigged. Like, it doesn't work. Did I spell it wrong though? Let's see. Nyasuta. That's what I put, right? Nyasuta. Yeah. See? I called it, right? This is why I don't look it up anymore, because I just know that a lot of their footage is just Smurfs, straight up smurfing. When I do footage, the only reason why I put myself in your shoes is to explain a point in your perspective. But the way that they're explaining the point is like showing that it actually like works, but it doesn't work if you're going to be climbing to higher elos. This only works because you're stomping. the way that I explain it is like, regardless if you're stomping or not, this is what you do. These videos are kind of like, well, if you're stomping, you do this. If you're not stomping, good luck. But that's pretty much what it is. This is why I watch these videos. So again, you're not really typically building to just sit in lane. What you want to think about is like, are you going to be flanking? Are you going to get someone that can wave clear? Because if you are going to get like a Scion, he'll just Q, the wave is exploded. What are you going to do? You're going to have to rotate. And if you just build straight up armor and you're dealing with a Veigar and a Lux, chances are you're going to get popped. So again, you're not building for just sitting in lane. You're building for the game as a whole. But I will say you prioritize the items that you're going to be needing to use first. If that makes sense. So in this sense, I probably would not go the Frozen Heart, but the Death Dance is fine. And then maybe like, I don't know, like depending on the game. This guy's fed, so it doesn't really, I can't really use this as an example. He'll probably run through anybody anyway, especially because Jax has his ultimate that gives him magic resist. But I think you guys understand my point. If not, let me know in the comments and I'll kind of clarify more. But pretty much you're building for the situation of the game and the state of the game. You're not building for, I'm just sitting in lane, okay?
Rengar to ever contest this split push, making Jax an unstoppable monster this game. Moving past items, let's talk about some actual in-game strategies you can abuse now. The first thing that turns people away from split pushing is actually because you're basically conceding all objective fights by never grouping with your team. While that can be true, oftentimes the best way to take an objective is to never go there in the first place. Let's show you what we mean. During this game, Ryze looks to teleport to bot lane after having based for items. The weird thing though is that he did this as a team was actively calling for Baron, which may seem a bit troll, but let's explain what's happening here. One of the more frustrating things about split pushing in solo queue is that your teammates don't really utilize your pressure all that well. When you're bot, some of them are farming the jungle, clearing a wave in top, or in base buying items. This gives your opponents the liberty of collapsing on you for free if you decide to commit to split pushing. As a split pusher, you really want to look out for moments where your team is all in position to pressure something immediately, just like this. All of Ryze's teammates are near Baron at the moment. This is a perfect moment to have side lane pressure, so Ryze does what's known as a tempo teleport. You usually don't want to waste teleport like this, but it's such a good opportunity that the cooldown is worth matching his teammates' positioning at the moment. This puts his opponents in a really unfair position. For a bit of context, Ryze is absolutely crushing this 1v1 matchup. He has such an easy time kiting immobile melee champions that Nasus has no hope of surviving the side lane. So there's the impossible situation.
So two things, I feel like Nasus just build poorly. I don't think there's a way that Ryze actually beats Nasus like ever. So again, I think it's a person smurfing, but even so, the person's KDA is not that great. So I think that the Nasus itemized incorrectly, period. And then I also think that you're putting too much faith into your 4 teammates. If you could just go to the Baron, secure the Baron, and then TP to bot tower and defend against Nasus, that's way better than if you go bottom with TP and then you can't help your team. Because again, you're saying that, oh, I trust my 4 teammates to actually know what they're doing. What if they all die? And you're like, A, you wasted your TP, you know, B, you can't help because you're all the way on the other side of the map. And again, this is why I watch these videos for you guys, because they're very, very in specific context. My 4 teammates are ahead. I'm not needed at Baron. I'll TP bot and continue to push. Again, he didn't even have to TP bottom. I would suggest never doing that. I would suggest just walking towards bottom because, you might need to help your team out. But let's see how this plays.
His opponents are in. They'll either leave their nests out to dry to try and defend Baron from Ryze's teammates. That'll likely result in a free inhibitor for Ryze due to how strong he is relative to Nasus, or they'll try to collapse. As Ryze begins dueling Nasus,
I called it, right? Look at what he's building. He's building a Divine Sunder into Deadman's, into, I don't even see him building magic resist. The only magic resist this guy has is boots. Right? If this dude just rushed magic resist from the get-go, laning against Ryze, Ryze never beats him. Period. And so this wouldn't even apply. Again, a lot of these videos are in context. You have to be very, very careful because if you think about it as in a game-to-game basis, you're going to realize these strategies don't really work too often.
Graves shows up to try and swing the matchup. Unfortunately, even 1v2, they're not able to take down Ryze. And take notice of what's happening on the other side.
Another indication this person's smurfing is they have 236 CS at 22 minutes. So again, I feel like that's just so trolled
of the map. Because Ryze actually timed his aggression with his
I'm just going to fast forward this part. Y'all understand what's going on.
The enemy team. That scenario where an
It's
objective.
it's a lucky
Graves
thing.
has
Let's see,
map
there's another
not
one.
really doing actually pressuring anything. As you should know, that scenario where your teammates are scattered around the map, not really doing anything, is far more common than all of them being together at an objective like we just witnessed. Well, here's another really sneaky tactic you can pull off in your games.
Okay.
During this match, Graves has, for the most part, the losing team. On the map, we even see the situation we just talked about. Talia is basing, Vi is in her jungle taking red, and Aphelios is moving towards bottom to collect a wave. There is zero pressure for Graves to work with at the moment. No matter, take a look at what he does instead. Whenever you push waves in a side lane, it goes without saying that your opponents have to respond to catch the wave. Here's a neat trick you can do based on that. After pushing waves deep onto their side of the map, just hide in a brush that's close to where the wave is crashed. This leads to two options. If no one on the enemy team comes to catch the wave, let's say they
Okay, I'm just gonna say they come in, they pop out, you kill them, cool. Or they come to you, which relieves pressure off the other side of the map, and your team can kind of get away with not really having to fight. That is a tactic. I'm not gonna watch it because it's very, very self-explanatory. We'll continue to move though.
The next thing you should constantly be doing in a side lane to really annoy your opponents is constantly dipping in and out of Fog of War to confuse them. Let's take a look at this Jace game as an example. Sadly, despite the game being a 5v4 in favor of Jace's,
I'm gonna skip this too. I don't want to waste you guys' time. Pretty much exactly what he says. You push, you either sit in fogs like in a bush, or you just walk back and they don't know where you went. And you push, walk back, push, walk back, push, walk back. Eventually, they're gonna either A, continue to have that person in that top lane or bot lane, whatever you're doing it at, and then you get to go with your team and you get a 5v4. B, they get so annoyed they just stop dealing with you entirely because they keep seeing you're gonna leave, and then they just you could just get to kind of the top tower for free. So like I said, that's not really something that is too crazy. Okay, let's see. This is a long portion to explain that little concept. I'm not gonna lie. What the heck?
To recap, if you feel you're not accomplishing much by split pushing in solo queue, then you may not be abusing these strategies nearly as much as you should be. Sure, based on proper itemization against the champions you plan.
Itemize against the game, not the champions that you're going to be dealing with. You can itemize at first to what you're going to deal with, but you have to itemize for the game because inevitably you're dealing with them later. That's all I'm going to say. Time your pressure accordingly. Yes, again, I don't really like that teleport example thing, but if you can pressure while your team is getting an objective, good job. And then the last thing was abused Fog of War. Again, push up, walk back, push up, walk back. Eventually they're going to fully commit to just being top, or they're going to go ahead and fully commit to killing your team, or nothing happens at all and your team just gets something because they're lacking the person that's stopping you. The cool part is if you're fed, then they need to send someone who's fed to stop you. And the cool part is if you're fed and they don't have anyone that's strong enough to stop you, they send two. So then the ability kind of just doubles to be able to make the game good for you and your team. So that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope it helped. I typically do skip a lot more than this because some of the things that they talk about are kind of like sugar coated in a way so it looks different and it seems really, really appetizing, but it's already concepts usually you already know. But I try to give it the benefit of the doubt at the start. What do I grade this? I'll grade it. I want to say I graded. That's hard. I graded a C because I think the first portion was pretty good. Just they could have worded a little bit better, and then the mid and like the second and third thing that they were talking about, I think that was scenario based, and the second thing was scenario based. The third thing was correct. Period. It was, like I said, it was just a very, very long time to explain for some reason. So when you're watching these videos, again, make sure that you guys are not really. You guys take it out of context. Take it out of context, and then really see if it's something that you can apply. And if so, good job. If it's not, so you can kind of tell it's clickbait if you do it on your own. Again, if you guys want specific videos, let me know in the comments below. Just link it there or link it in my Discord, whatever you want to do. And I'll get to that video when I can. And if you guys want to support me on Patreon, go ahead and look. And if you guys want to support me on Patreon, link in the description below. And of course, if you guys want coaching, CoachBlaker.com is where you want to go. Thank you guys for watching. Peace, peace, late. Till next time, you know what I always say. Thank you for what? Approaching this like a coach.